listening to Tales of the Forsaken, a live play fake board game by Noble Jester Productions.
But the usurper rose, her power terrible to behold. She stole the flame, enslaved the bodies, and twisted the minds of the true children.
So, Verboden, you are sitting in a cave with Roland and the dragonkin. You've been sitting at the mouth of the cave, having a conversation with Roland and Munt. Is there anything that you specifically wanted to say or do before I move things along?
I don't think so. With my conversations with Munt and Roland, I feel pretty good about where things are.
Okay, so you sit there and have a little bit of just conversation with Roland and Munt. But eventually the conversation dies down. You all sit there kind of in the silence of your own thoughts for a while until everybody starts to bed down and the night passes just fine. In the morning, everybody continues on traveling through the forest, and we're just going to kind of skip forward a couple of days. Roland has been traveling along with you, and you've been continuing to see these marked that have been chasing you through the forest, but it's been about a day now since you've seen them, so hopefully you've left them behind. But eventually you begin to reach the edge of the forest. You see the trees clearing out, and you reach the top of a hill that slopes down from you. The trees have kind of cleared out in front of you, and you can just see this grass hill that is sloping down from you. But in the distance, you can see desert. The forest has ended, and you can see the grass on this hill is just sloping down away from you. But then it's as though the greenery just dies. Anything green and growing just seems to end here at the desert, and you realize that you have reached the beginning of the infamous Eyeless Wastes.
So then with what Verboden has been used to with the frontier, this definitely looks like a stark difference compared to the rest of the frontier.
Yeah, definitely. The new frontier is mostly grassland, some trees, a lot of rock and sand, and normal desert. But this has a distinct lack of life. You can see that it is just rock and sand, nothing growing whatsoever.
Okay, so two questions related to that. First would be, do I have any memories of past lives revolving around this area? And second, would I maybe just have like a general knowledge from, since having my memories before, of like kind of knowing anything more about this place?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have you roll. Let's do a lore check. It's going to be a bit of a mixture of memories and potentially things that you may have heard.
And that's I think that's a good skill. That is a 5.
Nice, okay. Yeah, so you have been in and around the Eyeless Wastes in some of your previous cycles, mostly related to chasing someone or being chased into the wastes. You've probably at some point fought in the wastes, things like that, but you've never actually encountered the dangers of the wastes, because you've always had supplies or a horse or whatever to be able to avoid it. But you have heard some of the rumors and things about the Eyeless Wastes. It's supposed to be a place that is pretty dangerous, not just because it's a desert, but it's rumored to be a place that is actually more physically draining than normal to be in the wastes. You much more quickly run dry of fluids and food. You grow tired more quickly than normal when traveling, and those sorts of things. There's also rumors of large monsters that make the Eyeless Wastes their home.
Got it. So making this trip on foot is probably going to make him a little nervous.
I think you would be fairly confident that if you are going to, on foot, travel through the Eyeless Wastes, you would be walking, maybe not to your death, but at least to the dragonkin's deaths. You could transform and fly out, but they don't have that ability. So, just traveling into the Eyeless Wastes with no plan is going to be very dangerous. So as you are standing there, Roland looks out over the wastes and he says, "Well now, that is not a pleasant sight. Welcome to the Eyeless Wastes."
Yeah, not sure what the plan is here. If you know of getting us to this next contact, if you think this is even a good idea, there might be a way to skirt this.
Well, you would have to travel pretty far north to completely avoid the wastes. I wouldn't suggest traveling through them in your current condition, though. I think it's probably best to wait here for your contact. And Munt steps up and says, Yes, I think that we are supposed to wait here, and hopefully our contact will find us. It has been a longer and slower path than we were supposed to have taken, but we were supposed to meet yesterday, and hopefully they are still around.
Okay, did you have any way to send him a message or a sign that you're here?
We don't. The members of the Scaled Path treat their own security and safety as very important. Hopefully they are watching and know that we are here. Roland nods and says, Well, like I said, it's been a while since I've done this part of the job, but that is generally how this works. The group arrives here at the edge of the forest and waits for their contact to come and find them. I would imagine that since the railroad has been built, it's probably easier, since most people would naturally follow the railroad. I would say we wait here until they find us.
All right, well, sounds good. I guess we can maybe set up here just a little bit back, closer to the tree line. It has been a day at least since we've had any of that marked activity, but it might be good to be on the safe side.
As it so often happens in stories, as you say that, you suddenly begin to hear the booms of these marked traveling extremely fast through the sky. Everybody looks behind you with alarm above the forest and see these streaks of light as you see the marked of Yendra arriving over the canopy and angling in your direction.
Oh boy. I'm going to yell to all the dragonkin, Get back into the trees!
There are screams and shouts from the dragonkin, and they start to scramble toward the trees. Roland looks up, standing still, and then he looks over at you, and he says, This isn't a battle these folks can win. You're gonna have to lead them. I've got this. And then suddenly he transforms, and not like a transformation like you turning into a dragon. His skin, which always has kind of a golden glow, explodes into radiant light. Massive angelic wings grow out of his back. His hat goes flying as he shoots up into the air. He draws his pistol as he flies up, firing in the direction of the marked. He empties his pistol in their direction, and then he jets off at an angle back toward the forest. So all of these marked shift in their direction and start to follow Roland.
Okay, so seeing that, I would yell back at Moont and, Wait, we gotta go the other way. Come on, everybody hurry. I'll start directing everybody, and we're gonna head out into the Eyeless Wastes.
Okay, yeah, they follow you. Are you running, or...?
Yeah, we would be running, so I would try to get them going first. If I see anybody lagging behind, I would try to, grab them, pick them up, do what I have to do to, just keep everybody moving. But I'm gonna take up the rear.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there are children in the group. Dror usually picks up the child that has the same charcoal-colored scales that he has. But there's another child there you can pick up that has the same blue scales as its parents. So yeah, your group sprints into the desert, and as you're running, it takes a couple of minutes of running into this desert before you can begin to feel that sapping effect taking hold of you. Your legs start to feel heavy, your heart begins to pound harder. It is more and more difficult to draw breath through your lungs, and you are already beginning to just feel exhausted. The whole group is slowing down and already beginning to look tired as you are running into the desert.
Okay, yeah, as this is happening, I'll slow a bit and then look back. Can I see or hear any of the marked at this point?
You can kind of see them trailing off into the distance. There are still some booms of sound across the desert as they are chasing Roland. You can also hear some gunfire as well as that chase is happening. It appears that Roland has been able to distract them. You don't think any of them have seen your group as you head the other direction.
Okay, well, that's a good sign. So with that then, start slowing everybody down. and kind of check in with Moont. And Moont, this is definitely not ideal. Are you familiar with where we are at all?
No, unfortunately, I'm not.
This is not a place where we want to spend any sort of extended time here. This is a dangerous place to be on foot. I don't know if we want to keep going. I'm concerned with these marked coming back to where they first engaged Roland there, and finding us if we go back. So I'm not sure if we should keep going out into the wastes here.
He is listening to what you're saying, and then he kind of stops and he closes his eyes for a moment, and then he says, Verboden, I think perhaps it is time for us to have faith and understand that we are where we are for a purpose. Rin himself guides us. I believe that our contact will find us before anything truly bad can happen to us out here.
Okay. Options here. I feel like I could stay kind of where we are and try to be in the proximity of the fort. Man, this is not an easy thing to think about doing here. Okay, so thought process is, if the marked catch us, all these people are most likely guaranteed to go back to Orion. Am I kind of correct in that assumption?
Under normal circumstances, yes. However, they have now associated with you, a dragon, and these marked would not necessarily know that you have a special relationship with Yindra, so they may just kill all of you.
Yeah, that is a legitimate concern. Okay.
I would say that your experience with the marked, you might be able to take a couple of them in your dragon form, but with how many you have seen, you would be struggling to survive, and all of these people with you are going to die if you did end up getting into a fight with them.
Yeah, that's my thinking with knowing about the marked. I know of them, but then also most recently in Silver Ridge when they came in, they were pretty much on guard and trigger happy, even in a pretty kind of safe conversational setting. They seemed like they're, kind of on high alert all the time. Yeah. And have them be active, looking for a dragon and all that. I think there's no good option here, but I think the likelihood of getting captured and all of us killed with the marked is probably a lot higher, and I think we're going to take our chances in the wastes.
All right, so you lead the group into the desert, and this kind of draining sensation hits a plateau. You can feel it making you more tired and increasingly hungry and thirsty, but it doesn't continue to ramp up. It just stays at this certain level of draining your energy. So you continue to travel, and eventually, after some time, you get to this place where there are several hills around you, and there are a couple of large outcroppings of rock in between these hills in kind of a lower area. Normally, in a more regular desert, you might expect to find an oasis or some sort of greenery in this sort of a low spot, but it's just dry and empty here. So as you're traveling through this desert, you get to this point, and a couple of people sit down next to this rock, breathing heavily, and Moont comes over to you, and he says, Verboden, it may be time for us to take a rest.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We should be careful on how much water we're allowing everybody to drink all at once. Has anybody had a chance to take a look and see what we have left?
Well, each of us have what we have on us. He takes a water skin off of his belt and he holds it up. But to be honest, we weren't expecting to actually travel into the desert. We are certainly ill prepared.
We definitely are. This is essentially an emergency situation here, but we need to do every decision we make needs to be thought out and in the interest of our survival here.
Well, that seems wise. Should I have the people not drink the water?
We can. We just need to definitely ration what we have.
All right. So Munt goes around and he spends a few moments talking to each one of the dragonkin. And as you're observing this, if you haven't already, you get a sense for why he's the leader of this little group. He spends a few moments with each person, and you can tell that there is just a genuine sense of care with each one of these dragonkin. You can tell that as he moves on from each person, they are a little brighter, a little more uplifted. He's talking to each person about the water, making sure that they understand they have to conserve what they have. But with each one of the children, he gives them a sip from his own water skin. And you can just tell from these interactions why they all look to him for leadership.
All right, well, once everybody's had a chance to rest here momentarily, we should definitely keep moving, I think. Time is definitely of the essence here.
Okay, yes, let's go. So Moot gets everybody up and moving. So do you keep going?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep going.
Okay. I'm going to have you go ahead and roll a survival check because, yeah, I would like to know how straight of a path you are charting here through the desert.
It's a +1 skill. I'm going to roll. That's a 2 total, but I'm thinking I might try to invoke my high concept here of the Forsaken Wanderer. Literally out here as Forsaken Wanderer in the desert. I mean,
I think that makes about as much sense as it ever would. All right, so that was a 4. You feel pretty confident that you are leading the group in a straight direction, unless you want to curve or go somewhere else.
so yeah, I think a straight path makes the most sense with thinking that there's a scaled path contact that is potentially actively looking for us. So yeah, we're going to keep going straight.
Are you trying to relatively follow the path of the railroad?
Does the railroad cut through the Eyeless Wastes?
It does.
It does. Okay.
On kind of a straight path toward Ecton Falls. That doesn't necessarily have to be your destination.
Correct.
That's not where, the haven is located or anything like that.
But I think it's pretty reasonable to think that we can't find the haven without this scaled path contact, correct?
You could try making a lore check to see if you would have any idea where to start looking.
Okay.
But the dragonkin would not know where the haven is located.
Right. Well, it's worth a roll. Let me see. Hey, that's a 5.
That's pretty good. Okay. This is really the first time you are hearing of the haven. You have had brief encounters probably in the past with the scaled path, but not in any sort of sense like this time where you're actually with a group of escaped slaves trying to travel along the scaled path. And in the previous times, you either weren't aware you were a dragon or weren't necessarily willing to reveal that information. So you didn't have the same kind of inner access that you're being given, to this organization. But the rumors of a haven, a place where the dragonkin, can go for freedom, and a place where supposedly dragons, still exist, is kind of one of those mythical legends that has been all but, stamped out in the Four Nations by Yendra and the Marked, but it kind of exists as, kind of like, the Fountain of Youth or something like that.
Sure.
Would be rumored. And, so in the New Frontier specifically, it's kind of got that same mentality. I would say with a 5, you feel pretty confident that it's south. There is a portion of Rillian that you just haven't ever been to because it's not settled, kind of sticking off the south of the New Frontier, that you would be familiar enough with maps to know that it's there. You've probably not really ever thought about it before because it's not settled.
Sure. It hasn't felt important at the time. So, yeah, I think even just like you said, knowing the places where have been. Like, I'm familiar with those and thinking of, well, if there's a hidden place, it's likely in that sort of direction. So maybe the thought could be, maybe the person who knows how to get us there to the Haven, it would make sense to be somewhat on a similar trajectory from where we are towards that direction. So I think I would head us in that bearing.
Okay. So you're going to, rather than following the railroad, you're going to head south.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So you spend pretty much the rest of the day taking them. And at some point, actually, just do a quick survival check for me.
Sure.
I'm curious about something.
Well, at some point, you all die. That's not great. That's a -1.
Okay. Then what I was about to say, you can ignore.
Okay.
The day passes and night starts to fall. It gets pretty dark, and I'd assume by this point you're probably looking for a place to camp.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you find a kind of sand and rock hill that there's a portion of it that's kind of been scooped out almost in the side of the hill. It's not necessarily a cave, but it's a little more secluded. You've kind of got a little bit of, the hill on either side of you that you could probably camp there if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
What kind of camping environment are you going to allow?
Oh man. So I think the people other than like Moont, Dror, myself, keep them pushed up as far into the embankment as possible. I don't think a fire would be worth having at this point. I think the risk is higher than any benefit that we would have, and create a kind of a triangle of guards essentially. So have someone who's able to view up over that mounted area, and then kind of triangulate the three of us potentially for watching. If there are any other, kind of able-bodied, maybe we can cycle them in and out. So a couple of us could get some rest. That'd be the plan.
Okay. Yeah, there are other adults there. Krim, would be happy to watch. Nat would be willing to watch. And then both Amp and Goat would obviously be willing to watch. They're the blue scaled couple that has the child. And at some point, as people are kind of settling down and food is being broken out, water's passed around a little bit, Amp would make his way over to you. And I don't think you've really had a conversation with Amp at this point, but he would make his way over to you and sit down, offer you some water.
Oh, appreciate that.
We've found ourselves in a bit of a pickle here, eh?
Yeah, not an ideal situation at all, but we're going to do what we can and all work together, and hopefully we'll make it out of here okay.
Hopefully, yes. Is that a bit of hesitation? Are you worried we won't make it out of here?
Well, I'll let you in a little secret about myself. I am a bit of a worrier, so if I'm not worried, there's probably a problem. So I'm just staying focused and looking at the task ahead, which is getting us through this safely.
All right. I've got to be honest with you. I understand that Moont and Dror have their faiths, and they can believe what they want, but I've got a family here, and I'm not really interested in waiting for divine providence when we need to take care of ourselves, you understand?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very much how I operate as well.
He looks around a little bit and then lowers his voice, and he reaches a hand out kind of towards you, and you for a moment see a spark kind of shoot between his claws, and then he puts his hand down. He says, "This is not something I want to spread around, you understand?"
And what that might be is that you're unsure of the plan, or what you got going on there with your spark in your fingers.
I have some skills that are not typical of my kind. Things that I've learned and picked up in a
lifetime of studying and watching those who can perform magic.
Well, it's good to know about your abilities. Did you say a lifetime of studying?
I spent most of my youth as a servant and slave in an academy of wizards, a place where they learn to study magic and perform incredible feats. I've picked up some things here and there.
Okay, well that's good. You happen to find any acting along the way in between Orion and here? Because that's a little bit of a limitation.
That's an interesting point. It's not a limitation I share.
Oh. Kind of perking up at this point. Well, that's interesting.
Hopefully you can understand why I would be hesitant for this to become known. I would not be sharing it with you if I did not think my family's life was in danger.
Yeah, I know of at least a couple organizations that might be interested in that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Spirited Mind, but I would steer clear of them and need that information.
Yes, that is why I am on the run, if I am being honest.
Did you come from being with the Spirited Mind, and is that what you're talking about?
I was discovered, and it was either be their lab rat or get my family out.
Well, I feel like you made the right choice. Your secret's safe with me. I've been through a lot in my years. Some of these powers that be are not our friends, so glad you shared and know that you can trust me.
I appreciate that, but I share for a specific reason. He kind of, scoops a little bit of a hole in the sand, kind of a depression, and focuses his hand over it, and it seems like he's putting a lot of effort into this, and then water starts to fill up this hole, holding it, kind of straining for a moment, and then he lets it go, and the water just is almost instantly, soaks into the sand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's a helpful start. Water is important here, so yeah, that's great. Any other magical abilities that are going to help us with our survival?
Well, I cannot make food, if that is what you're asking, but I have a few tricks in combat that could come into play if we find anything that we could kill and eat.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Thank you, Amp.
Please try not to get us killed out here.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Well, that is all any of us can do. Okay, well, he stands up and kind of brushes the sand off of his legs. Thank you again, and let me know if there's anything I can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
He goes back over to his family.
Cool, that's helpful.
Yeah. So the night, kind of begins. People are bedding down, watches are starting, and you begin to hear this. There aren't the normal desert sounds. You don't hear necessarily the moving of animals or anything like that. You don't hear any bugs. You don't hear anything like that. There's a pretty heavy wind that starts to kick up. And then you feel like you kind of look to the side. You feel like you heard something scraping. Then a few moments later, it sounds like a rock gets kicked.
Okay, so definitely on high alert here. I'll kind of look over at whoever else is on guard and be like, hey, right, not towards that direction.
I think right now it would probably be still, decently early. You said that it would, you would kind of set up Drawer and Moot, so I'd say it would be Drawer at this point.
Okay.
He stands up, and as he has one of the shotguns,
mm-hmm.
he points it in that direction and gives you a look. What's going on?
Yeah, I'll just kind of give him signals. I'm going to, like 2 fingers to the eyes, point over to look, and then pointing at the my ears to listen. And I'll keep looking in that direction as well, and I'll have a shotgun up at the ready as well.
A few moments pass. You don't hear anything. And then in the other direction, you hear sounds like some metallic clinking.
Is this like completely opposite of the camp, like, or what direction is it from?
Yeah, kind of, if you have the camp at your back and, you're kind of sitting in this depression in the hill, kind of heard it from the right and then heard it from the left. So potentially on the other side of the hill, maybe just out in the desert, you're kind of hearing things from two different directions.
Okay. Yeah, for right now, if I'm just hearing it, I'm just going to keep watching.
Okay. Let's get a roll. Maybe...
What am I mean, there's like an intuition, which is part of will. Just kind of getting a feel for what's happening.
Kind of an idea of, looking and trying to spot anything. I guess it might be investigation.
Yeah, it would be investigate, because that's like observation, covering things. Okay.
So let's get an investigate check.
Okay. I'm trying to think if I want to take that as another skill. Yeah, I think I'm going to take investigate as do it as an average skill. Total of 0.
Okay. You begin to hear these noises coming more regularly. You're hearing them from the right, from the left, and you begin hearing them kind of out in front of you.
Do these seem like distant noises, or...?
They started out that way.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It seems like they're coming closer.
Okay, if I feel like they're in multiple areas, all sounding like they're coming closer, I'm going to start backing up towards the group, look over at Jor, and be like, giving the sign of, hey, we need to go. So I'll start going to all of the rest of the group, getting it up and around, and then we're going to kind of head up and over this berm and try to start making a move out of here.
Okay. Are you leading the group or at the back?
I'm going to stay at the back, so I'm going to put myself in between the sounds and the group. I'll see if Dror can be in the front.
Okay. So he starts to lead the group out of, this kind of area up and over, and you're trying to watch in every direction out kind of in the desert in front of, you're now going the opposite way, but in front you suddenly see a large shape in the dark. These two glowing green points of light suddenly appear like eyes.
Oh, boy. How close are these eyes?
Probably maybe 100 feet away.
There's no point in being quiet here, so I'm going to yell over to Dror, and obviously so the whole group can hear. Everybody, just run, keep running. Follow Dror.
As they all start to run, Dror suddenly stops, points his shotgun, and fires on the other side of the hill. And everybody kind of screams and starts to rebound back towards you. And he yells out, "They're all around us!" And let's go ahead and start some combat here.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and set a couple of scene aspects. It's dark.
Mm-hmm.
And you have... We'll set 3. We'll do dark. We'll go surrounded.
Okay.
And I'm going to say partial shelter. I'm not going to call it cover, but partial shelter. You do have this hill that's still at your back and can kind of use it to some extent.
Okay.
These creatures have started to surround you, and now you can see this, at least the one creature that you had identified starting to rush even closer towards you. You begin to kind of be able to pick out details. It looks like a large lizard. It's got these glowing green eyes, large mouth, looks kind of, it's not like elongated, it's kind of a almost like a rock-like appearance. And I think you would probably pretty quickly recognize it as a basilisk.
Okay.
And you would know, kind of the things about a basilisk. And probably that would trigger in your mind, oh, that's why it's called the Eyeless Wastes.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And that's not good.
I'm going to go ahead and set 2 aspects of these basilisks.
Okay.
One of them tongue-in-cheek, but it's look into my eyes.
Okay.
And the other one is hungry hunters. It's your turn.
With this information, I'm going to yell back at everyone, don't look at their eyes, hide your faces, and then I'm going to kind of point up, knowing where approximately it is, and then look away, so I'm not looking straight at it in the fire.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and make an attack roll.
That is a 3.
All right. It got a 2. So you fire and you hear kind of this almost like, it sounds almost like the sound of rocks slamming against one another. And I don't know if you take a peek or not. It's up to you.
Oh, man. I mean, if it's big enough, I can look at it without looking at its eyes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll take a peek.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you hit it and it kind of got knocked back to the side. So, looks like you did a good amount of damage to it. Probably wasn't really expecting you to fight back. So, Drawer went, you went. Nobody else is really going to be able to make an attack right now. These continue to swarm in, and you can now see 4 others. Kind of looks like they've kind of surrounded in a circle around your hill, and they are starting to rush in. None of them are close enough to you to do anything, but they're rushing at you. Probably the next turn they're gonna get attacks on you. So
got it.
Drawer is going to fire again. So you hear that happening over on the other side, and you're up.
Okay, I think I'm going to quickly yell to everyone, "We've got to move, follow me!" And then my plan is to move towards the one that I've damaged, and essentially, like, we're going to wedge ourselves, sitting ducks if we stay here. So I'm going to try to, like, get us out and through. So as I'm moving towards it again, I'm going to take another shot.
At the same one?
Same one.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's good. That is a 4 total.
Nice. It got a 1, so that's enough to kill it. So yeah, you fire again, and you hear this thing kind of just tumble. And they, if you were right up next to one, it might be a little higher than knee high. These things aren't massive, they're not like it could eat you in, a couple bites or anything. But there's enough of these things, that it seems it's definitely dangerous here.
Yeah.
You've successfully killed that one. These others are kind of coming in, but it seems like everybody's following along behind you. As you're running, one of them is going to come up at your side, and it's trying to kind of like leap at your face to be able to, get into your eyes. So it's going to make an attack against you.
Okay.
That is a 1.
I'm going to defend with physique, kind of like putting my arm up, blocking it, so that would be a 2.
Okay. Yeah, so it leaps at you, and you just elbow it aside and keep running. You do hear another one is going to make an attack against Drawer. Okay. You hear just kind of a grunt as there's an impact from back there. I assume you just are going to keep going.
Did I notice anything beyond the one that I killed, or is it just stuff coming out from the sides coming in towards us?
Correct. Yeah. They had completely encircled this hill, expecting to kind of surprise you, but it's not like multiple layers of them or anything.
Okay.
If you can get past the circle there, then they're going to be chasing you.
Okay. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do then is I'm going to stop in that point and kind of act as like that protective barrier and keep the people moving in that direction. And then once the last of them have gone through, then I'm going to fall back in with the rear and cover our run.
Okay. You are up.
Okay, so there's that one right there. I'm going to go to smack it with the butt of the shotgun.
Okay.
That's a 3 total.
Ooh, got a -3. So
Sweet.
yeah, you jam it right into one of this thing's eyes, and there's almost like a bit of a explosive force to this thing's eye popping. It just falls limp.
Sweet.
So yeah, the people continue to move past you. You can now see kind of off to the side. There's a collection of probably 3 or 4 of them just rushing to you from one side. Kind of look behind the group. Another half dozen of these coming up from the rear, continuing to sweep. There's another 5 or 6 coming from the other side. Like, this is a fairly large hunting pack, and they're quickly approaching. Dror takes another shot at the one that he's been kind of engaged with and kicks it aside. It looks like it's dead, but they're converging pretty quickly.
Okay. Does it look like he's starting to retreat as well, or is he just staying there like a dummy?
No, he's been moving backwards,
Okay, cool.
kind of with the group, trying to now take the back of the group.
Okay.
You can see Moont has a shotgun and is the next in line, but it doesn't really look like he knows what to do with it. And he hasn't fired it yet. He's kind of trying to shepherd everybody and make them move quicker. You do see Amp in the middle of the group. He's got one hand out. You can kind of see a slight blue sheen to his claws on his fingers, but he's moving with his family. It doesn't look like he's, at least at this point, planning to engage.
Sure.
But yeah, they're moving past you, and another one of these basilisks is gonna rush up to you, and again, it's kind of trying to leap at your face, trying to get its gaze to yours.
Okay.
I'm rolling terribly.
I'm
That is a 1.
I'm rolling pretty good. That's a 3.
All right. Yeah, so it leaps at you and it probably just misses. A second one is it's actually going to rush at your feet and try to knock you over. You know, that test roll before we started with the actual dice has completely thrown things off.
Yeah.
Because I've rolled a -2 in like 4 times in a row now.
Yep.
All right. So that's also a 1.
That's a 4.
All right. Yeah, so these things are trying to get at you, mostly ignoring at least this little group that is coming at you from the side. Mostly ignoring everybody else. But Dror takes another shot at one of the ones following behind, and he's going to turn, and he kind of physically picks up Moont and Nat, who are at the back of the group, and just kind of rushes past you with them, and now everybody is past you.
Okay.
These basilisks are swarming. You're probably about to be attacked by a good 6 or 7 of these things if you stand where you are.
Yeah, so I would start falling back as well. With me, did I succeed with style on that last one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of maybe with, knocking that one out of the way, it's trying to attack me. Maybe it kind of lands on the other one, creating a little bit of a visual obstruction. Obviously, they know approximately where I am, but I'm gonna just keep back. Yeah. So as we're falling back, I start running kind of quickly with the group. I pull a couple more shells, pop the old ones out, put those in the chamber, cock the shotgun, and I'm gonna take a shot at the closest one.
Okay. Still trying to kind of avoid looking at it, or
This is a pretty wild shot, so I'm obviously running here, so I'm just aiming back, kind of picturing that apex point, I think, where they'd all be trying to come into where we were. So I'm shooting at that direction of the group, essentially.
Okay.
It was a bit of a roll, but still 2.
Okay. It also got a 2. So you fire, and it doesn't sound like you've hit anything.
Okay.
As these things kind of, collect into a group and now are chasing you, you are suddenly hit by this almost like wave of mental lethargy. One of these things is using some sort of a mental attack against you, is trying to essentially daze you.
Okay. So would I most likely be defending with will here?
Yeah, I'd say that would be a will defense.
Okay. Man, I'm trying to think if I should take will as a skill here. Okay, so I think with filling out my sheet here, I'm going to go will as my last average skill. Okay. So that'll give me the third mental stress box. Roll. And that's a total of 1.
Okay. I also got a 1. It is going to use a fate point, use its aspect, look into my eyes, and it is trying to get you to essentially turn and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to add a +2.
So aspects we had, there was dark, surrounded.
Yeah, the partial shelter's gone.
Partial shelter's gone, right.
And really surrounded is kind of gone at this point as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't think dark really helps because they're fine. Maybe go with me here on I'm a dragon. So while I'm still in an orc form, I still am a dragon. So I think it'd be tougher to mentally overpower me. So I'm going to invoke that if that works.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So you both get a 3 that evens out, and you are going to be attacked by another one of these mental attacks. All right, that's a 3.
It's only a 1. Gotta get out of here. So I'm going to invoke that aspect again.
Okay.
If I'm a dragon.
And that's your last fate point, right?
Well, he invoked it, right? So I would have gotten 1 from that, and I spent 1 in the same turn, right? Or how's that work?
We've gone back and forth on how we've done that. I think for the sake of, not kind of just escalating fate points, I think we should have it, you get it after the conflict.
Okay, that works for me. So then, and that would be my last fate point. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so they're going to keep rushing at you, and just from your current running, these things running after you, you do feel like they're probably a little faster than your group.
Oh, okay.
It's not that like they're gonna rush up and surround you again, but if you're just gonna keep running through the desert, they're gonna be able to at least stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
So this may not be a very workable long-term solution, but
right,
it's what you have in the moment.
Yeah.
So you're up.
Okay. I mean, while they may catch up, potentially this might give, if we take out enough of them on the way, maybe we'll weaken them enough. I don't know. And who knows what the terrain change can do, if that even happens. So I'll try taking another shot at the group that are coming after us.
Okay.
My rolls are starting to turn. That's a 1 total.
Okay. As your group is running and these basilisks are chasing after you, you suddenly start to realize that the direction you are running towards is brightening. And you probably kind of look in that direction and you see a column of fire shoot up into the sky, and it starts to sweep towards you. For a moment, I'm sure you're like, what the heck is going on? And then you see this figure in the middle of this column of fire, and it rushes past your group and sweeps through this herd of basilisks, crisping all of them. And this figure, the fire kind of dissipates and it lands as it moves towards you. So now it's behind you. Are you going to stop running?
Yeah, seeing how this guy's entered here and destroying those things, I'll stop and look up towards him.
The darkness falls again as this figure puts out its arms, and these balls of flame suddenly spring into existence in a rough semicircle stretching out around your group from this figure, and these flames light up the night. This figure walks toward you, and you can see him clearly now for the first time in the light from the flames. He looks like a human. He looks very old. He's bald. He has a long white, bushy beard. He has these glazed white eyes like he's probably blind. Scars and old wounds etch their way across his face. But the most distinctive feature is that he has this tattooing pattern that looks like it starts at the back of his skull and sweeps across the top of his head and down his face. And it's in the appearance of scales that have been tattooed onto his face, with these elongated eyes and an open mouth with large sharp teeth tattooed onto his human cheeks. It appears that he has tattooed his human face to try to look like a dragonkin. So this old man walks up to your group. He holds out his hands and he says, "Welcome, seekers of the scaled path. I am the ancient father, and I welcome you."
Hey everybody, we hope you're enjoying Season 2. As always, we thrive on hearing from you and would love for you to join our Discord or support us on Patreon.
Something else too, if you're enjoying listening to us, we ask that you share it with somebody else who either plays or potentially is new into getting into tabletop role-playing games. And if you haven't done so already, please either get on Spotify, Apple, whatever podcast service you use, and leave us a review.